So we're here today to talk about a new 4K UHD release of a 1995 horror film. They were released by the company TerrorVision, not to be confused with the film TerrorVision, which is quite entertaining to me. But this TerrorVision actually is they got several different things that they do, but they do release films on VHS and Blu-ray. And the one we're here to talk about today is a very impressive packaging and release of the 1995 horror film Rumpelstiltskin. And if you haven't done so already, if you'd go ahead and like this video, subscribe to my channel. I'm Dave Watkins, Watkins Films. In this video, we're going to take a look at, now I had to order this directly from the TerrorVision site. They'll probably eventually have a standard release where you can just buy the 4K by itself, which I'll show you what it looks like. But this very impressive exclusive set I had to buy from the site. And during this video, I'm going to open this up. We're going to take a look at all the contents inside of here. I'm going to talk about the film. This is my first time watching the film. It's loosely based on the Rumpelstiltskin legend. Now, if you've ever seen the show Once Upon a Time, I think Robert Carlyle does a very awesome work as Rumpelstiltskin, especially in the first season of it. But he kind of is more, he's more in tune with the actual folklore of, they kind of say it's a fairy tale, but it's more based on folklore. Rumpelstiltskin. Here, for some reason they add this new thing to him, like he wants babies, like kind of like a witch would want like babies, but it really in a way makes this movie a little frustrating trying to watch. Rumpelstiltskin is directed by Mark Jones. The film he did right before this one was the very first Leprechaun film. Now during he was supposed to direct the second Leprechaun film, but unfortunately, which is fortunately and unfortunately, I feel like it's fortunate and unfortunate. It's fortunate and unfortunate. I feel like if Mark Jones had stuck with the Leprechaun franchise, maybe he could have molded it into the way he wanted it to go. But here he went for he got the green light for Rumpelstiltskin, and at the same time they were like, "Oh, we're starting Leprechaun too." So he had to pick between the projects, and he went with the more original content and being stuck with the Leprechaun franchise. It would have been cool if he could have done both, but he ended up. It was probably it was a good choice in a way. I don't know what would have happened if he'd stuck with the Leprechaun franchise, if he would have been more well known now. But he did this one. He got like a lot larger budget than he had for the first Leprechaun film. As you can see on screen, the budget is higher. Especially there's some chase scenes specifically. It kind of reminds me of Steven Spielberg's Duel, where the Leprechaun chases the main characters in a big rig for quite some time. Very impressive stunt work by the people driving the cars. The beginning of it's fine. It takes place in the old days. I think maybe the 17th century, maybe where the legend derives from. But he's got a baby, and these townspeople are chasing him, and then they end up saving the baby, and they change him into a rock, and they throw him into the ocean. In present day time, a recent widow, played by Kim Johnson Urich, which I don't think I've ever seen her in anything. She doesn't look like, at the beginning of the film, in the first part, she is pregnant, and she doesn't. She's a pretty good actress here. I thought she did a great job, but when you see her on screen, it's not like you don't think horror movie actress when you first see her. She does seem like a very almost like a soap opera actress or like a Lifetime type of actress, so you don't get that horror movie type of feel. But this is a 1995 movie, and she does put in a solid performance here, and she does focus, even though this film goes bonkers later in the film, she does try to focus on keeping the character grounded in a realistic way. So in present day time, that she is a recent widow. Her husband was a cop, which it shows this scene at the beginning where he gets shot by someone who's doing a robbery, and then they both die. Him and the robber both die. He kills him. He shoots him in the back of the head or something like that. But then, like in present day time, he's dead, and she's had the baby already. But then she goes to this shop, and she gets the Rumpelstiltskin statue that he's been turned into. It's probably got washed up on shore or something, but it's in this kind of a weird shop, and she brings it back to her house, and she accidentally gets upset thinking about her husband and cries on it, and makes the wish of her husband seeing her baby, which he comes back briefly and sees the baby, and then he has sex with her, and then the next morning she wakes up and sees some brief nudity. You don't see too much. You just kind of see her butt, which I guess it looks okay, but then she goes into the shower. Her husband's in the shower. She opens it up, and instead of her husband being in there, it's Rumpelstiltskin. He's like, "Rah, I'm Rumpelstiltskin," or he doesn't say he's Rumpelstiltskin because that's part of the legend. Is you can't, if you say his name, then he's gone. So it's kind of she can't say his name. He tells her the whole what the deal is. He's like you get this wish. The deal is I get the baby now, and the only way to stop me is to figure out what my name is, which you can't do. Now, so he comes out and he attacks her. There's a fight scene. He tries to get the baby. She fights him pretty good. She does a pretty good job fighting him, and I think she mauls him a little bit, but then he recovers. He's apparently immortal and can fix himself. I think he shoves a broom handle down his throat, out the back of it, and it just heals. It's all good. You can't kill this guy unless you say his name, apparently. But she escapes with the baby. And the rest of the film is pretty much a chase scene as Rumpelstiltskin continuously tries to get the baby back, which is kind of fun, but it's kind of like annoying too, that because it shows him like talking to himself all the time, like, "I want that baby, Johnny," and cuts to him again. He's like, "I want that baby. Give me that baby. I want him." And he just like talks to himself about wanting the baby really bad, and it's just like a very kind of, I don't know. The guy playing him, Max Grodenchik, he does it. He looks really great. This prosthetic makeup on this character here it looks fantastic. But and he does a good job with the physical aspects of the character. I'm not really sold on his voice. I think he needed to be more, I guess, more, I don't know, more growly or something. You know, I think in comparison to Warwick Davis Leprechaun, I guess he's trying to write it like the Leprechaun, trying to make it funny, but it's just like nothing that he says is funny. Now, the first 30 minutes or so of this film takes itself very seriously. Even though when Rumpelstiltskin shows up, it is a little hokey, but for the most part, the human interactions are very grounded. They're very serious, and it's very 95-ish when you're watching it, the way that the characters interact with each other. But it's somewhat realistic, but it is a bit of a drag for a little bit. And then Rumpelstiltskin shows up, and then things get really bonkers. But it is just, like I say, it's a big chase scene, and he wants that baby. Give me that baby. It kind of reminds me a little bit of Fat Bastard in the Austin Powers films, like, "Give me that baby back ribs," you know, sort of thing. Like, "Get in my belly." He doesn't say that, but he might as well be saying it. What's also weird, like the co-star of this film, the actor's name is Tommy Blaze, plays this character named Max Bergman, that while she's trying to get away from him, she breaks down on the side of the road. Rumpelstiltskin's not. She gets away from him. He gets on a motorcycle and all this other stuff, but there's other chase scenes with a motorcycle, which is pretty. He looked pretty hilarious driving that thing, but she meets this other guy named Max Bergman. Now, you see Max Bergman earlier in the film. Apparently, he's like a kind of a famous. He's got his own show, and he comes out and he's being kind of a male chauvinist pig. He's kind of says derogatory things to women, and they're eating it up. So everyone's like, "This guy's an asshole." He's kind of a misogynist asshole, is the way his persona is on the TV. Now, randomly, he ends up being the person who picks her up on the side of the road, and he's got a boat in a car connected, and he ends up helping her, and she gets in the car with him. She makes him take her, and it's kind of the interactions between that. It is kind of funny. It's very random that this celebrity ends up being the person to pick her up, but their reactions are fairly random in the way that she makes him do things. And he turns out he's not really an asshole. That's just his persona for the TV. I want to talk a little bit about the kills in this film. For the most part, they try to keep it not very gory, and you don't see much. Like things like happen. Like sometimes he'll just grab like a lady. First time he kills somebody, which is about 40 minutes into, he grabs her by the neck and just twists her neck, and it kills her. And then it was weird. It's like right before watching this film, I just had watched Terrifier 2, and so it was like it was just a very Terrifier 2 is way over the top with the kills, but it was just like in comparison to that, it was like the kills here are just so weak. You know, I don't know if that's necessarily a bad thing, but it takes a long time for somebody to kill, and it almost feels like a made for TV sort of thing when they sort of things happen. He does there's some stunt work, like when he steals a motorcycle, the guy on the bike, he throws him in the air, and he goes pretty far. And there's another, when he steals a trucker's truck, he actually kills that guy pretty good. He rips his head off and throws it, and so that's a little gruesome. But most of the time, it's the kills are kind of weak. So he does weird things, like he likes to kill cops too. Like one time, the cop comes up to him, and he Rumpelstiltskin takes his whole head off and throws it at the cop, and then since he throws it at the cop, he's able to bite the cop's neck and kill him, I guess, which most of that happens off screen. But it's like kind of messes him up. It takes him a while to get his head back, so I don't know why he went to that extreme to take his head off and throw it when he probably could have killed him easier and not had to worry about finding his head again. It makes all that part a little more entertaining, though. Rumpelstiltskin's body parts can come off and reattach. It's goofy, but those parts work. I think the baby thing again is like it's so ridiculous because they got this baby, like the mom and this Max Bergman. They have the baby in the car. He chases them. He's running into the back of the car, tears the boat up. The baby's not saying too much. I think this baby would be having a big crying fit or be killed because the cars are hitting each other. But most of the time, the baby's pretty quiet. Occasionally, he'll cut to a close-up of it and it'll make some kind of movement. But it's just very cumbersome to have to deal with this baby the whole film. And they're just some earlier shots of the baby actually work pretty good. But it's to me, it's the baby. I don't like it in the film. I don't like it. I don't mind a little bit of baby in the film, but it's just like baby, 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 baby over and over again. And by the way, the baby's name is John, which is Rumpelstiltskin says over and over again. His name's John, and sometimes he wants to mix it up. He calls him Johnny instead. This film runs about an hour and 31 minutes. It's an appropriate time for this type of film, and even though some parts of the film it does kind of slow a little bit. I do want to read a few lines that Rumpelstiltskin says that I thought were just when he's sitting in the car by himself. I almost feel like the director's just like throwing lines at him. Say this line. Like he says, he's driving. He's like thy chariot have many horses. Like that's the thing too. He's from like before cars, and he's seeing cars for the first time. He thinks they're chariots or dragons or whatever, and somehow he's able to jump on a motorcycle and just drive it or get in a car. Like a friggin' like semi truck that requires a Class B license. He's able to get in there and drive it without any instructions whatsoever. And then, but here's another one. He says, "Damsel in distress, thy screaming baby, the treacherous road. Life doesn't get any better." That's the kind of stupid shit that he says as he's driving the truck to himself in the car. I mean, and it's like that's the thing. It's like I get it that they want him to be more goofy or funny, like Leprechaun or Freddy Krueger or whatever, but it's just like they could have went. He talks way too much, and almost everything he says just sucks. And it's like it would be so much better if he didn't say hardly anything, or when he did say something, it was only like briefly. He definitely don't need to be in the car talking to himself in unfunny ways. He's like, "Come to Papa, little baby," and it's like, "I only want the baby John." Now, the one that I thought was kind of funny, even though it doesn't match his dialogue, he's about to wreck. He's like, "Fucketh me," is what he says, and then drives off the road. But occasionally they'll throw in something like that doesn't. They're trying to mix his like thy or thou with fucketh me, or like occasionally it would just throw in some random like slang from the 90s that this character has no way of knowing what that slang is or fucketh. You know, I mean, I don't even think they used the word fuck back then. They used other words that were similar, but they meant the same thing. But they weren't. They didn't use that word. I was there. I could tell you for a fact. No, I'm just kidding. Now, and another thing about the baby. I know I'm talking about the baby. Like he wants the baby, and he could have just gotten the baby. I don't know. I guess maybe part of his whole thing was he had to come out and explain everything to the main character. Like she has to figure out his name. But he could have just came out and there's several times where he could have just gotten the baby, but he decides to do all this other stuff instead. I mean, just get the baby and go. If that's what you want, get the baby, get out, right? And then in the movie, another thing too, he said she finds out his name probably around 30 minutes into it, and at any point during the movie when she was interacting with Rumpelstiltskin, she could have said his name, and the whole movie would have been over. He would have, because eventually she does say his name, and that's what stops it. But she could have done that at any point, but. All right, let's get into it. Let's take a look at this amazing packaging from TerraVision. Damn, they did a good job on this. So we got a slip box. Okay, that's the slip box. On the back of it, we have this Rumpelstiltskin and some constellation things going on. It's just amazing. And here we have a Rumpelstiltskin drawing in these woods. It looks like maybe the motorcycle part here, but I really like this. Looks very much like a folklore fairy tale drawing. On the back, the ending of it takes place in a graveyard, and this is kind of representing that. And he looks terrific. Rumpelstiltskin, I really like his makeup. It looks really good. On the inside cover, And this is probably going to be your standard release. This will probably eventually be released where you can get this. Now, this is the original movie poster, which I think looks pretty good. And you see a very nice shot of him. That's kind of what he looks like in the film. The back's very, just a bunch of words, little pictures at the bottom. Inside of it, we have several discs. Now, TerraVision, I do have to give them some credit here. They do this thing right. Because not only do they have a 4K, they've got like a Blu-ray, and then they got a special features disc. They're awesome. This is just fantastic work by TerraVision. There's also a poster of the original movie poster, which I dig it. I like it. It looks terrific. They added this little card in here with the rhyme about Rumpelstiltskin, and there's also a book of essays, including one by Mark Jones, the director. He talks about the film and his experience with it. And all this came inside of this box, and additionally, it was kind of wrapped in plastic. And additionally, it had this more essays, another little book of essays with it, and it came with this random little fortune teller thing. I don't know if this is actually part of it, but it says fortune teller miracle fish, and you put it on your hand. I think maybe this came with it. You know, I don't know what's up with this. This looks like maybe this is just like sugar. Like what do you call those things? Like you open this up and it's just pure sugar and you eat it. Maybe, I don't know. All right, let's go ahead and rate this thing. Let's rate this on a scale from 1 to 5, 1 being the lowest, 5 being the highest. I'm going to rate this movie. This is lower than I normally rate anything. I'm going to give it 2.5 stars. Maybe leaning towards 3. It has some positive qualities to it, but there are some very frustrating things within this film. I do like the direction. I don't like a lot of the dialogue that Rumpelstiltskin says. I don't like the baby stuff. As far as TerraVision, I'm going to give them 4.5 stars for this fantastic release and what they've done with the film. Even the 4K transfer here looks really good. The flesh tones are very natural looking, like intentionally like it was shot. For the most part, you see pretty good bit of detail, uptick in quality compared to what you would see on the DVD or the VHS versions. Of course, the blacks are typically fairly deep, and everything looks fairly resolved. The film grain is there, but it doesn't look overly grainy. This was shot on a 35mm cinescope, and that's where the transfer came from, the negative of that. But I recommend the film if you like this film, which I'm clearly not a big fan of the film, but if you like it, this is a good way of getting it. I think that and if you like really awesome packaging on films, this TerraVision's the way to go to get this. I don't know if I'd had to get this directly off their site, and it was kind of like I think a limited release. I don't know if there's any available, but they'll eventually have the 4K out, I would think, where everyone can get it. Hey, if you haven't done so already, if you go ahead and like this video, subscribe to my channel. I'm Dave Watkins. Thanks for watching.